Hello again. Today's footage is going to be working on clearing up this pile of trees that's been building up all summer. I need to get that finished up and then I can finish digging out the driveway delivery ramp for the trailers for the house. So the challenge is getting up here. You can't really see it at the moment, but when eventually I'll bring the tractor back closer to the camera and you'll be able to see that I had waited. I had a time where I had 3 days of sunshine with no rain, and I hoped that would be enough to get up there, and it was, but the tread on the tires is completely filled with mud, so that was like the minimum time that I needed. In fact, I came up here the next day to finish up and had a much easier time, which was good. I ended up taking all the logs down on that day and was able to take advantage of the fact that the ground was mostly dry, and the weight of the tractor plus the weight of all the logs as I was driving up and down the hill did a pretty good job of packing that down on the driveway, so that's definitely a benefit. But at this point I'm just going through and trying to get them moved out of the way. This is another of those jobs that would be quite a bit easier with a mini excavator instead of the backhoe, because then I could just move back and forth and pick the logs up and would have had a much easier time. A lot of these ended up with a 16-foot section on the bottom, and the theory being that if I need them for running across, so the plan that I have right now is that I want to build a 12 by 16 drying shed where I can pile logs up like this, and where I can actually stack the pallets of lumber as I mill without having to worry about putting metal sheeting on top of each individual pallet. So I want to have that open on the one side, and that way I can load just have everything loaded up on the forks, drive in and drop things off. My thought is to have the 16-foot wall open, although I might actually consider doing it like 11 by 17 now that I'm thinking about it, because the measured dimensions have to be on the outside of the posts, and I need the inside to basically be the 16-foot. The theory anyway was that then I can put, if I cut 8-foot logs and mill that into lumber, then I can put that on a pallet and then drive that straight in on one side or the other of the shed area and stack up a couple pallets worth. You can see here like I said, the mud is just getting in those treads pretty bad. The forks ended up being a little bit of a easier time in some of these cases, simply because I could use them to actually lift the entire tree up. Yeah, so the plans are still in the works as far as what this drying shed will end up being. It might end up being just another 20 by 10 type of a shed, so that then I can do 2 10-foot openings, and have it 2 pallets deep basically. I don't know. We'll see what what things look like when I actually get to that point, but I wanted to make sure I had as much flexibility as I could with the thicker logs, because if I end up not needing them, I can always cut them down, to an 8-foot log and use them for other stuff. Trying to get these stumps out of the way was one of the challenges that the forks actually came in super handy with. And eventually these stumps will probably all get moved down along the highway, along the front of the property, because we want to create a pretty noticeable, like a good-sized berm down there, so that we can help direct water and help get plants that will grow tall enough and thick enough to help block the view and sound from the highway. So that's one of the goals, but we'll see. They may end up living here for long enough that they end up decaying. So after that 16-foot, though, then I figured for some flexibility I would probably need some 12-foot sections, and so any of them that were thick enough that I could get a 12-foot and still have about 7 or 8 inches at the end of the 12 feet, then I would do that, and then everything from then on was 8-foot sections all the way down to the tree branches, which I kept a lot of the tree branches even, as long as they were basically bigger than my thumb, because they can still be used for furniture, which is what a lot of this is going to be. The stuff that's thick enough to mill will all be milled into 1 inch, slightly over 1 inch boards, so that they can become panels, cabinets, flooring, wall siding, things like that. And then anything that's too small will get set aside and used for building log furniture. And then anything that doesn't fit, or all the scraps, then they get set aside for using as cooking wood, because alder makes a really good cooking wood. I don't know why it surprised me how big the pile actually was. I've been building it all summer. Let's see, like that was not one of the biggest trees, and I got 3 8-foot sections and a 16 and a 12, so that's a pretty tall tree. I mean, there's still little bits of branches at the top, but I got 52 feet worth of log out of it. These didn't want to move, didn't want to stay on the pallet forks very much, because you'll notice the forks are as close together as they could be, which worked great for the root balls. Not so great for trying to move logs, so that's okay. It sure would be nice if I'd have been able to stack these a little better so they were, like, the root balls were all a little bit closer together, but that's okay. It'll be a fun project to be able to actually use all of this and see what it ends up being down the road. This particular section was kind of a mess, but I figured it would be the smartest and easiest and fastest way was to just work on cutting through each one and then kind of rolling them out of the way so that I could still see what was next. Then I ended up using the backhoe to try and move those logs from the one side to the other. This spot here is actually where I will probably make a turnaround if we do put the driveway on this west side of the house, sorry, the carport on the west side of the house, which would also be a convenient spot to have a turnaround for fire trucks, which is one of the requirements. But we're actually contemplating this might be a good spot to put the well, so that we only have to we don't have to take water line all the way down into the field. Although the neighbor has 2 wells, I believe the well in their field is shallower. And flows better, so that might mean that the field is actually the better place to put a well. And running, 600 feet of poly pipe is a lot cheaper than drilling an extra 100 feet on a well, since that's $75 a foot. So today's footage is going to be a little bit on the short side, but I ended up just working as long as I could. The battery died on the camera, but I just kept working on this and piling things over here on the south side of the driveway, and came back up the next day to do most of the finish work. I did try and get a couple of loads down, but between the tires and the mud, it didn't really want to work. It was a pretty sketchy drive taking this first load of logs down, so I ended up just staying down there. But as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching today. God bless you and yours, and I hope you're able to stay safe and healthy out there. And then for tomorrow's footage, or the next day footage anyway, we'll actually be finishing this up, and I can't remember if I had enough light to do the rough cutting in on the ramp, but that's where I ended up getting before the rains came. So we'll catch you in that video.